You won't see their names in Forbes. They don't drive Lamborghinis, and they don't post their wins on Instagram. But they're winning, and they're doing it in silence. Every day, across neighborhoods that look just like yours, normal people are quietly doing something extraordinary. They're building wealth, not with flashy jobs or viral hustle hacks, but with calm decisions, steady habits, and a mindset that rejects the pressure to perform. They don't chase applause, they chase freedom. And if you've ever felt behind, overwhelmed, or like the game is rigged for people with insider knowledge and trust funds, this story is for you. Because the truth is, you don't need to be brilliant, born into money, or lucky to build real wealth. You just need to know how the quiet ones do it and be willing to walk their path. Most people think they know what wealth looks like. A man stepping out of a luxury car, wrist flashing with a designer watch, sipping a $7 coffee on the way to a high-rise office with a skyline view. But what if I told you the people who are truly wealthy often don't look like that at all? That real wealth doesn't scream, it whispers. And it's not in the shoes or the square footage or the number of followers on a curated lifestyle account, but in the quiet confidence of someone who doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. Because wealth, true wealth, is about freedom, not flexing. And the most financially successful people, the millionaires you've never heard of, don't live like the movies taught you. They live like your neighbor who never upgraded his car, like your coworker who brings a packed lunch every day, like the retired teacher who volunteers at the library. And that's what this video is about, not some fantasy of overnight success or crypto jackpots or boss moves, but the steady, almost invisible ways normal people quietly build wealth, and why that quiet path is more powerful, more durable, and more available than you've been led to believe. Because in a world obsessed with showing off, the smartest move might just be staying under the radar while you build something real. So let's start by unlearning everything we think we know about what it means to be rich. Because this isn't just a video about money. It's a video about mindset, strategy, and choosing a life that actually works. For you, not for the algorithm. It usually starts with something innocent, a promotion, a bonus, maybe even your first full-time job out of college. And suddenly, the world opens up. You can afford more, so you upgrade, not just your income, but everything around it. The car, the apartment, the wardrobe, the dinners. And it feels good at first, validating even, like proof you're finally arriving. But behind that upgrade lies a silent trap, something financial planners call lifestyle creep. And it's one of the most efficient ways to quietly destroy your chances of building long-term wealth. Because what feels like progress, I deserve this now, can quickly become a treadmill you can't step off. And before you know it, your expenses have risen to meet your income, sometimes surpass it, and you're back to living paycheck to paycheck. Only now you've added layers of responsibility and pressure that make it harder to slow down. And what's worse, our culture rewards this behavior, praises it even. Treat yourself. You've earned it. Go big or go home. But it's a lie dressed in dopamine, a feel-good narrative that convinces smart people to trade future peace for present aesthetics. And here's the hard truth. People don't go broke because they don't make money. They go broke because they don't keep it, because they don't build systems that protect it. And when every raise triggers a lifestyle upgrade instead of an investment, the wealth never actually builds. It just cycles through, leaving you exhausted and wondering why more money never seems to solve your stress. And that's the part nobody tells you. The world is designed to make you feel behind, to make you feel like you're not doing enough, not buying enough, not flexing enough. But the quiet wealthy, they don't play that game. They break the cycle. They live beneath their means. And that choice, while invisible from the outside, is the foundation of everything that follows. It sounds simple, almost too simple. Live below your means, spend less than you earn, and use the difference to build something. But in practice, this is a revolutionary act because everything around you, from ads to influencers to your own insecurities, is screaming the opposite, telling you to match your income to your identity, to signal success with stuff, to equate self-worth with what you can afford. And yet the people who actually build wealth, the ones who stay rich, not just get rich, reject that equation entirely because they understand something deeper. Freedom is worth more than validation, and control is more valuable than convenience. And what living below your means really buys you is leverage, the ability to say no, to walk away, to breathe, to invest, to wait. And it's not about self-denial or being miserly. It's about being deliberate. Because when you stop buying to impress and start buying to align with your future, your entire financial life changes, and you stop feeling behind because you're finally living on your terms, not someone else's scoreboard. And this is where the quiet millionaires separate themselves, not by how much they make, but by how little they need to be okay. And that gap, the space between your income and your lifestyle, is the engine that powers everything: savings, investments, flexibility, peace, and ironically, it's the least glamorous part of personal finance, which is why most people ignore it. But let me say this as clearly as I can. It is the most important habit you will ever build, and if you do nothing else, no stock picks, no real estate portfolio, no fancy spreadsheets, just learning to consistently live below your means will take you further than almost anything else in wealth building. And here's the magic. Once you master it, you start to realize you don't need more to feel rich because you've already built the foundation that most people skip entirely in their chase for status. If there's one principle that separates quiet wealth builders from everyone else, it's this. They start early. Not because they know everything, not because they found the perfect investment, but because they understand the one force more powerful than income, luck, or timing. Time itself. Because when it comes to investing, time isn't just a factor, it's the multiplier, the secret weapon. The reason someone who starts small in their 20s can beat someone who invests more but starts in their 30s or 40s, and the math isn't emotional. It's compound interest, cold and consistent, and it favors those who act early and wait long. And that's the catch most people miss. The wealthy don't obsess over perfect timing. They just get in and stay in. They avoid the noise, the panic, the hype, and instead they treat investing like planting seeds, not betting on fireworks. And that shift in mindset, from gambling to gardening, is everything, because it creates consistency, and consistency creates wealth, and we've seen it play out in real life over and over. The janitor who quietly invested in blue-chip stocks, the secretary who held on to dividend-paying shares for decades, the millennial who maxed out her Roth IRA, even while her friends upgraded apartments. These aren't anomalies. They're proof of what happens when small, early decisions get decades to grow. And yes, the market has ups and downs. Yes, you'll feel like quitting sometimes. Yes, you'll wonder if it's worth it when others seem to be getting rich faster with crypto or options or some shiny new thing. But remember this. Wealth isn't built in moments. It's built in momentum. And those who master the habit of investing regularly, automatically without drama, eventually outrun those chasing shortcuts. Because the race wasn't about speed, it was about direction. And the sooner you start, the sooner compound interest stops being a theory and starts being your financial reality. One of the biggest myths in modern life is that success has a look, like you can see it in someone's clothes, their car, their Instagram, their vacation photos. But the deeper truth, the one that never makes headlines, is that real wealth rarely needs to perform. Because when you've built financial freedom, you don't need to rent it by the hour for appearances, and the status trap is exactly that. A performance, an expensive one, and millions of people spend their lives chasing it. Not because they want to, but because they think they have to. Because the pressure to appear successful can be louder than the desire to be secure. And that's how smart people end up broke trying to look rich. And here's the irony. The wealthiest people, the ones who could flex the hardest, are often the ones who choose not to. Because they understand that the true benefit of money isn't showing off. It's not needing to. And that decision to opt out of the status game is what gives them their power back. And here's the part that stings. The status trap doesn't care how much you make. It only cares how much you need to impress. And if that number keeps going up, you'll never feel like you've arrived, even if you're earning 6 or 7 figures, because status is a moving target, a game where the goalpost keeps shifting, and winning it often means losing the game of actual financial independence. But the people who quietly build wealth, they exit that game early. They buy used cars, not because they're cheap, but because they understand depreciation. They wear regular clothes because their confidence isn't outsourced to brand labels, and they spend money on things that compound instead of collapse in value the moment they're posted online. And maybe the most radical thing they do is this. They define success on their own terms, not society's. And in doing so, they escape the endless loop of validation and instead build something that lasts. Building wealth is one thing, keeping it is another. And if there's a hard truth that's rarely talked about, it's this. Most wealth doesn't survive more than one generation, not because of bad luck, but because no one taught the next generation how to handle it. And so the cycle resets. Parents work hard, build something meaningful, then unintentionally raise kids who grow up thinking money just shows up, not that it's earned, protected, grown, and respected. And that's where true wealth building goes beyond budgets and portfolios. It becomes about education, modeling, and values. And the quiet millionaires know this, which is why they don't just build financial legacies. They build financial literacy, starting at home with everyday habits. And it doesn't matter if you're rich yet or not, because teaching your kids how money works, how choices compound, how effort connects to freedom, that's the kind of education most schools will never provide. And it starts small, with chores, with saving goals, with understanding that work isn't punishment, it's empowerment, and that debt isn't normal, it's expensive, and that the goal isn't to look rich, it's to be free, and the stories are everywhere if you look for them. Like the dad who gives his daughter a small weekly allowance, but doubles it if she saves half, or the mom who has her son help plan the grocery list on a budget, or the family that treats investing like a dinner table topic instead of a secret reserved for adults. Because what this does, what it really does, is create kids who aren't intimidated by money, who don't grow up chasing status, who won't burn through inheritance or spend every dollar they make trying to match a lifestyle they never earned. And yes, it takes intention, it takes patience, and it takes going against the culture of buy now, worry later. But it's the single best investment you'll ever make. And here's the final insight. If your kids understand that wealth is built, not given, earned, not inherited, you won't need to leave them millions to make them rich, because you'll have already given them the mindset to build it themselves. You can copy someone's budget, mimic their investments, even drive the same car and live in the same neighborhood. But if you don't adopt their mindset, you'll never replicate their outcome. Because wealth isn't just about what you do, it's about how you think. And the quiet millionaires, the ones who build lasting financial freedom, all have one thing in common. They see money not as a finish line, but as a tool, not as an identity, but as a resource. And this shift, this invisible but crucial shift, is what separates those who get rich from those who stay rich. Because when you stop chasing money as proof of your worth and start using it to create a life aligned with your values, everything changes, and you begin to ask different questions. Not, what can I afford? But what adds meaning? Not, how do I keep up? But what do I actually need? Not, how do I earn more? But, how do I design a life I don't want to escape from? And that mindset, that quiet, intentional, deeply personal approach to money, isn't taught in most financial books because it's not flashy, it's not sellable, but it's the truth behind every person who lives with real peace, and it shows up in the smallest of choices, in waiting before buying, in choosing work that aligns over one that just pays, in building a simple life you don't need a vacation from. And the stories back this up. Like the janitor who left millions to charity, not because he chased stocks all day, but because he spent less than he earned and stayed consistent. Or the school teacher who retired early because she avoided status traps and invested quietly, year after year, while everyone else chased trends and tips. And if you trace their steps backward, you won't find a hack or a shortcut. You'll find a mindset, a patient, confident, long-game mentality that never needed to broadcast itself. And that's the final lesson here. If you want to build wealth that lasts, stop asking what rich people buy and start asking how they think. Because when your mindset shifts, your actions follow. And when your actions repeat, results compound. And that, more than any single stock or secret, is the blueprint most people never see. Building wealth isn't about doing everything. It's about doing a few key things over and over, long after they stop feeling exciting. And that's what makes it hard for most people, because we're wired to chase novelty, to seek fast results, to treat money like a project instead of a practice. But the quiet millionaires, the people who reach financial independence without fanfare, know that simplicity, done well and done consistently, beats complexity every time. And their lives are built on habits so basic they seem boring. Tracking spending, automating savings, avoiding bad debt, saying no more often than yes, and living like their future depends on today's discipline. Because it does. And let's break that down for a second. Because you don't need a finance degree to build wealth. You just need systems, like setting up automatic transfers to savings and investments so the decision happens once, not every month, or reviewing your spending weekly, not to punish yourself, but to stay aware of what's actually going on, or learning to pause before purchases and ask, will this matter in 6 months or just 6 minutes? And it's these quiet micro decisions, repeated thousands of times, that create macro results. And here's a secret most people miss. The longer you do them, the easier they get, because they become identity. I'm someone who saves. I'm someone who avoids debt. I'm someone who builds. And when your habits align with your identity, momentum takes over, and your finances begin to move on autopilot. Not because you hustle harder, but because your system removes the friction. And over time, that system does what hustle never can. It builds something steady, scalable, and stress-free. And whether it's tracking your net worth monthly, meal prepping to avoid food waste, or simply turning off notifications from brands designed to trigger impulse spending, every single one of these small choices adds a brick to your financial wall. And the people who build quiet wealth know that a fortress isn't built with big leaps, but with steady laying, day after day, one quiet, deliberate action at a time. There's a reason quiet wealth feels different. It's not just the money, it's the absence of anxiety. The peace that comes from knowing your life doesn't depend on the next paycheck, the next client, or the next headline. And when you build wealth silently, methodically, without chasing applause, what you're really building is stability, the kind that doesn't flinch when the stock market dips or the economy wobbles, because your foundation isn't hype, it's habit. And while flashy wealth might get attention, it rarely lasts because it's built on image, not infrastructure. And here's the real difference. Quiet wealth isn't reactive, it's proactive. It's not about having enough money to impress strangers. It's about having enough freedom to protect your peace, to choose your projects, to say no without guilt, and yes without fear. And it creates a life that's deeply rooted instead of dangerously stretched. And this is something people don't talk about enough. When you live below your means, when you avoid debt, when you invest early and often, you're not just securing your future, you're upgrading your present. Because stress doesn't hit the same when your emergency fund is full, when your job isn't a lifeline but a choice, when your expenses are lower than your income and your calendar reflects your values, not just your obligations. And that feeling, that quiet confidence, is what makes this whole thing worth it. And you don't need to retire early or live off-grid or go viral to feel it. You just need to stop chasing someone else's version of success long enough to define your own. And once you do, your goals shift from more to enough, from prove it to protect it, from what if I had more to what do I actually need. And when you land there, you'll understand why so many of the world's wealthiest people don't show it, not because they're hiding, but because they don't need to. They've already won. In the end, wealth isn't just a number. It's a story. And the most powerful stories are the ones that don't need to be told loudly to matter. Because when you live your life with intention, when you build quietly, protect patiently, and choose long-term peace over short-term performance, you're not just securing your finances, you're creating a life that resonates deeper than any trend. And that life, that steady, values-driven, quietly rich life, will speak for you in your decisions, in your relationships, in your time, and most importantly, in your freedom. Because real wealth isn't about having more, it's about needing less, knowing why, and living accordingly. And as the world keeps speeding up, chasing the next big thing, flashing highlights and curated upgrades, your calm will feel countercultural, your contentment will feel radical, and your discipline will look like rebellion in a world that rewards chaos. But that's the whole point. This path isn't about applause, it's about alignment, and the reason it works isn't because it's complicated, but because it's consistent. And while others ride waves, quiet builders build walls, not to keep people out, but to build something strong enough to protect the life they love. And that's what you're really building here. Not just an account balance, but a foundation. Not just retirement plans, but present peace. And if there's one truth to carry with you after everything we've unpacked, it's this. The life you quietly build, the habits you form, the mindset you choose, the boundaries you protect, will echo longer, reach deeper, and speak louder than any loud lifestyle ever could. And it will do so not with noise, but with results, not with flexing, but with freedom, not with likes, but with legacy. And you won't need to convince anyone that you're winning, because when you walk in alignment with what matters most to you, the results are undeniable, and the quiet becomes your loudest move.